Florida State Seminoles are a threat to win the national championship, and they are a threat in realignment. Welcome to episode 300 of College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content and share the video with your family and friends. Let's take a look. Florida State, LSU, holy smokes. The game last night, it was a great game until midway through the third quarter. Then the Seminoles started pulling away. Jordan Travis, 23 of 31, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He got away with a couple passes. LSU with that great pass rush. They were getting to him, but he hung in there. Trey Benson, 12 carries of 47 yards. Jordan Travis pitched in another 38 yards. Rodney Hill, 5 carries for 29 yards. Keep an eye on Rodney Hill. I think he has a very high upside. Keep an eye on him. Jordan Travis led the Florida State Seminoles to a 45-24 victory over LSU. Brian Kelly at the end of the game in the press conference says, "We are not the team we thought we were. We thought we were the Georgia Bulldogs, the 2-time defending national champions. We are not." Of course, Brian Kelly just recently, a few days ago, said that they thought they would, I don't know how he put it, kill the Florida State Seminoles, rock the Florida State Seminoles, beat up on the Florida State Seminoles. I don't know what his exact words was, but he let it be known that he thought the LSU was going to go in there and beat the Florida State Seminoles pretty bad, but it did not happen. Jaden Daniels was 22 of 37, 347 yards, a touchdown, an interception. He also ran for 64 yards, but LSU could not keep up with all the weapons that Florida State has. We talked about it. Keon Coleman, the transfer from Michigan State, 9 catches, 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. The most important play for me was when Coleman caught the first touchdown pass, made a dive and a duke, a move around the secondary, and went the distance. I think that settled down the Florida State Seminoles offense. I think that proved to Florida State that they were going to hang in there with LSU no matter what they gave them. Johnny Wilson, 7 catches, 104 yards. Again, we talked about Johnny Wilson all through the offseason. All the talent in the world, the 6'7" frame. But he drops a couple passes. He shouldn't. And he did it again last night. But again, he was a threat on all plays versus LSU. And of course, Jahan Bell, the tight end from South Carolina, 2 catches for 49 yards. Another threat. And of course, on defense, Jared Verse made his name known. He was hitting the quarterback. Didn't quite get to him, but he hit him. He hit him over and over and over again. Florida State, 45-24. Now here at Peek Around the Corner, you all know that we have been on the hype train. I've been the conductor of the train. We have Florida State winning the ACC championship, going to the playoffs. Florida State, we were shocked when the ACC media members voted Clemson number 1 and Florida State number 2. It should have been flipped around. The Florida State Seminoles have way too much talent and a coaching staff to match. This is it for the Seminoles. They're going to do it this year. We're not just buying it because what they did to LSU. They are legit. But they're not only legit on the field. They are legit off the field. We're going to go through a little bit of a recap here from a gentleman, John Bueller, taking this from the North Carolina perspective. From fan-sided, John Bueller, North Carolina, he recaps what Paul Finebaum said this week. And once again, being out there saying that there's a fracture within the ACC and that they're about to lose some schools and they're not going to get them back. Paul Finebaum congratulates ACC for essentially leading it to its own demise with the California, Stanford, and SMU additions. Paul Finebaum saw what the ACC did to itself and does not think the conference will have long-term viability after Cal, Stanford, and SMU additions. It is because 3 other teams will leave. We'll put a link in the description. You can read this article. It is a recap. It is a recap of a Paul Finebaum interview on the Matt Barry show. For Paul Finebaum to crush the ACC, an ESPN product for the most part, that speaks volumes. You better believe Paul Finebaum was fired up on the first season edition of the Matt Barry show. With 4 more games left in the week 1 slate, Finebaum has seen enough. Yes, we still have so many games left to be played, but he cannot look past what the ACC did to itself on Friday morning, with North Carolina State stabbing Clemson, Florida State, and Big Brother North Carolina in the back. Remember, this is from the North Carolina perspective. With North Carolina State stabbing Clemson, Florida State, and Big Brother North Carolina in the back, in allowing California, Stanford, and SMU to join its league, the ACC looks to have completely debased itself. Finebaum essentially congratulated the ACC for doing everything in its power to get Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina to leave running for the Big Ten or SEC or whoever comes a calling first. And finally, ultimately, for the face of ESPN's, this is the PATC money shot of this short recap article. Ultimately, for the face of the ESPN's college football product to eviscerate one of its 2 most important leagues like this is shocking. Then again, Finebaum has never been afraid to let it rip on any platform other than his namesake TV show, of course. Frankly, the ACC will be in a halfway decent shape for as long as the conference pillars like Clemson and North Carolina want to and choose to be involved with it. The big question now is if North Carolina will go to the Big Ten or the SEC, as UNC holds all the cards. Ultimately, for the face of ESPN's college football product, that's Paul Finebaum, to eviscerate one of its 2 most important leagues like this is shocking. But you know what? It's not the first time Paul Finebaum has done this. He did it in August. He did it in July. He's not just talking, not knowing what's behind the curtain behind him. Herb Street has done the same thing. They all see this big, growing, developing story of the ACC fracturing. This is just another part of the story. Having California, Stanford, and SMU come into the conference, it makes sense for those 3 schools, obviously. It also makes sense for some of the AC schools to get an insurance policy, to get a little bit more money yearly for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years left on their ACC current Tier 1, Tier 2 contract. But it does not make sense, does not make too much sense for North Carolina, for Florida State, and for Clemson. So what's going to happen next? Well, Florida State is a real threat, not just to win the national championship like we talked about earlier in this episode. They are a real threat in realignment. We here at Peek Around the Corner expect Florida State to make it known to the ACC that they expect the ACC to be open to negotiating at the table a price for the Florida State Seminoles to buy out of the conference. As SMU was able to buy into the conference, as California was able, and California and Stanford were able to take a big discount for many years to get into the conference, Florida State expects to be able to buy their way out of the conference. This is going to happen sooner rather than later. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. This story is just begun, and it's a massive story, and it's percolating on the surface. As you can see, Paul Finebaum, the face of ESPN college football, ACC, SEC, he's not talking about this in a vacuum. Things are going on behind him, and we're going to bring it out in the forefront. We're going to give you all a peek around the corner here in college football. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.